God and science. Assumptions of science and the scientific method. The first assumption necessary for doing science is objective truth. A belief in objective truth is indispensable for doing science. Objective truth means truth which is there in the universe, independent of humans who are the subjects. It does not depend on us and it is not made up by us. It is something out there. So that objective truth is what we are trying to discover through science. So an assumption of the existence of objective truth is essential for the project of science. The second important assumption for a successful scientific endeavor is that this objective truth which we believe exists can be known. So that is a very important assumption. If we think that there is objective truth but it cannot be known, then scientific projects cannot be done because we don't think that will yield results. Therefore, an assumption that objective truth can be known is essential for doing science. The third assumption necessary for doing science is that we believe that the universe is real and not an illusion. According to pantheism, a belief where everything is God and all observed reality, the phenomenological world, that science endeavors to study and investigate are just illusions. What you see is illusion. The ultimate reality is God. So in this worldview, a meaningful scientific endeavor is not possible. Only if we assume the universe and the phenomena we observe in them are real can we investigate and study them. Therefore, an assumption of the reality of universe is very necessary for doing science. The fourth assumption necessary for doing science is the assumption that the natural laws which we observe are regular, that they do not change. It's a very important assumption. And regularity of natural laws is indispensable. If we think that Newton's law of motion is not regular or that it will change, then we cannot use it. If we think that it will change tomorrow, then we cannot use it. It is because we do not know whether it will be the same today. So the unchangeable nature of natural laws, which is called regularity of natural laws, is a very important assumption. And this regularity is what leads to order in the universe. And this is a very important assumption for doing science. Once we believe in objective truth and objective truth can be known, then a very important assumption which needs to be made is that the universe which we think is real and which is orderly can be known, can be studied, known and understood by humans using the scientific method. If you believe humans cannot know the universe through scientific method, then science cannot be done. So this is a very fun, this is also a very important assumption about the scientific method which we believe for doing science. The next most important assumption for doing science is the assumption that mathematics is objectively true, that numbers, theorems, and rules of mathematics are objectively true and can be known. So this is a very important assumption. If we do not believe that mathematics is true, or that theorems and numbers are unreal, if you believe they are unreal, then you cannot do science. Only if you believe that mathematics is objectively true can science be done successfully. Science has a lot to do with maths and statistics and measurements, and therefore mathematics is indispensable for doing science. Next important assumption necessary for doing science is assuming the validity of logic and reasoning, because science is about observation, interpretation, and inference, and there is a logic behind it, inductive logic, and there are deductions made in science from the findings of nature, and deductive logic is involved. So both inductive logic, deductive logic are indispensable part of scientific analysis, and therefore if we do not think logic and reasoning can lead to truth, then we cannot do science. Faith in the research of others. Doing science requires faith in the scientific discoveries and findings of previous generations and fellow scientists in various disciplines, and who live in various cultures with various values and with various degrees of intelligence. You cannot go and check everything they have discovered. You must accept it as true, even if you did not check it out for yourself. So this requires faith. You may question in a narrow field you are working, but not in all the fields of knowledge, as the knowledge is vast, and there is no way you can question everything and know everything and then come out, because the knowledge is so vast, the information is so big, and the specialties are so narrowed down nowadays. The subspecialties have increased in science that it's virtually impossible for a single person to study everything by himself and know. So he has to believe what the textbooks of various scientific disciplines tell, and he has to take it by faith. The next assumption necessary for doing science is faith in the truthfulness of others. That those researchers whose articles you are reading in published and peer-reviewed journals, and whose research you are co-opting for your scientific projects, you believe that they are sincere human beings, truthful human beings, truthful scientists, at least in the scientific field, that they will be truthful. And it is a faith which is necessary for doing science. Without this basic trust in scientists from various countries, languages, cultures, values, you cannot progress in science. Another important assumption which is normally made is based on all these assumptions, that these assumptions can be made, and that making these assumptions is in no way unscientific or contradictory to the project of science. This assumption that these all, when we make all these assumptions which we have seen till now, the combination of these assumptions is reasonable and will lead us to the truth when we use the scientific method based on these assumptions. So you have to believe that the combination of this assumption is reasonable and it works. So it is a faith. In the overall, it's the assumption made about, it's the overall assumption made about the individual assumptions coming together. Okay, so this faith is very important for the scientific project. This overarching assumption about the workability and reasonableness of all these assumptions coming together. So, science is based on assumptions which are not being proved scientifically. So, science is based on faith in these assumptions. So, using scientific method to know truth is a philosophical method of knowing truth. So, what you make of science depends on the philosophy of science you accept. Science is based on faith or assumptions which have not been proved. Its foundations are not scientific and so cannot be used to disprove religion, because religion is based on faith. Both science and religion are based on reasonable faith. Science or religion based on unreasonable faith or without evidence need not be accepted. Blind faith should be rejected. So the problem is between reasonable faith and blind faith, not between science and religion. Pitching the battle between science and religion is a logical fallacy called faulty dilemma.